that lift will travel. God, that tastes bad. Welcome to another episode of Flash Performance, and this has been a long time coming. Over the past year, I've been building a new shop, and we are ready to move my MaxJax lift to the new shop. And that's one of the great parts about a MaxJax, is you can unbolt it from the floor and wheel it to wherever you want to go. So in this episode, we're going to move this jack over to the new location. I'm going to show you how I set it up, bolt it to the floor, and go through the whole process with you, so stay tuned. The first step in relocating my MaxJax is going to be to unbolt it from the floor. So we're going to take the arms off, and I'm going to take a measurement for how wide I have the current setup. The problem I ran into is when I originally set this up, I wanted to be able to lift anything. I wanted to be able to lift a full-size truck. I wanted to be able to lift a Jeep, an SUV. So I set it nice and wide apart to be able to do that. My plan is to get another lift, a heavier lift in the future. So I'm going to set this lift up for an SUV or smaller, because right now at the current stretch, if I put a Jeep on this, it really puts it all the way out to its limit, and there's not a lot of stability because the arms are so close together. So I'm going to snap a measurement on this, make sure I don't go the same width, make sure I go smaller, and unbolt this from the floor. Now that I have the columns and the pump in the new shop, I need to set the width of the lifts and where they're going to be. So originally I had set them at 130 inches because I was planning on doing big trucks. Well, I found this nifty diagram on the MaxJax website, and I'm going to go closer to the car setup. So I'm going to go at about 110 inches outside to outside, and that will be a better setup for the small SUVs, minivans, and Jeeps that are going to be on this lift. So I'm not going to go as wide, so the arms aren't going to have to stick out straight anymore. So the closer I get in, the farther out the arms can be to be able to have a more structured and supported lift. Okay, I know what you're thinking. That was a little tight. And you're right. And that's exactly what I was going for. I wanted to make sure that that was the biggest vehicle that was going to be able to fit in there. So that was my Buick Rendezvous, and that's about the widest vehicle that I think would go on that lift. So this will give me the ability to lift that Buick Rendezvous plus Jeeps. So here it is with a Jeep CJ7 frame in between, and you'll see the difference in why I went this direction. The challenge that I was having before was when I put this Jeep CJ7 frame on the lift and lifted it up, my arms were almost all the way straight out. They didn't have any width to them, so it made it very unstable. So this lift is going to be for max an SUV or a minivan and all the Jeep projects that I work on. Now, later on down the road, if I decide, man, I really need this lift to be wider, that's a simple process. You buy some more anchors and you put some more anchor points in. Speaking of anchors, I called up the guys at Garage Equipment Supply and said, hey, I'm moving my MaxJax. What do I need? And they sent me a box of new anchors. So this is really all you need to have multiple locations for your MaxJax lift. You can put as many different anchors in many different spots as you want to. So in the future, I plan on actually putting a set outside on the concrete pad that I'm doing that are really wide apart so I can put trailers on it. Trailers don't weigh very much, so having the extra width is not going to hurt the lift at all, but that gives me the ability to get trailers up in the air too. So the MaxJax is a very versatile lifting system that lets you put it virtually anywhere. As long as you got the concrete, you can put them there. All right, let's get this bolted down. When you're drilling your anchor bolts, there's a couple things to remember. First is going to be make sure you have enough concrete thickness. In my particular application, I poured 8 inches of concrete where I knew the lift was going to be. Yes, it's overkill for this lift, but again, I plan on putting another lift in, so that will give me enough thickness to put a lift in later on down the road beside this one. When we're drilling out the bottom of these holes for the anchors, there's a required depth that you have to meet. When you get to the bottom of that depth, make sure your concrete is thick enough. If it's not, make sure that you're augering your drill instead of hammering it. What happens is if your concrete is at the minimum and you're hammering down, it'll actually blow out the bottom of the concrete and make it weaker because you don't have as much of an anchor point anymore. Also, you'll notice as I drill through these holes, I'm sinking the anchors in upside down into the hole. This is helping keep the lift centered where I originally had it as I drilled the other holes. Instead of drilling one hole, taking the anchor out, cleaning it out, putting an anchor in, I can just sink the anchors in upside down to get all the 5 holes drilled and back to work right away. Then I can sink all the anchors and make sure that everything is secure and tight before I tighten it down. I did this process in a couple of days. It doesn't take that long. It's actually about an hour process to unbolt, move, drill holes, set anchors, and rebolt a lift. And I don't know of any 2-post lift that you can do all that work in under an hour. An easy setup, very maneuverable, and now I can get back to work on this Jeep that I've been putting off for way too long. I appreciate you watching. Make sure you check out Garage Equipment Supply for your MaxJax, any anchors, and any other tools or equipment that you may need for your automotive shop. I'm Chad for Flash Performance. Give me a thumbs up. Make sure you like the page, subscribe. We'll see you next time.